From annoying auditions to freakish onset injuries, Henry Cavill has suffered while playing Geralt of Rivia in The Witcher, but he wouldn't have it any other way. Here's how he became the iconic character.
You smell of death and destiny, heroics and heartbreak.
Did you know that Henry Cavill almost didn't get to play Geralt? I know, right? Preposterous. But it's true. You see, Henry has always been a big fan of the Witcher video games and books. So when he heard Netflix was developing a series, he kept bugging his agents to get him a meeting with the streaming giant.
Because he had his agents call every other day to see what the progress was. And eventually someone said to me, will you please sit down with Henry Cavill?
Obviously, they took the meeting because it's Henry Cavill we're talking about here.
Henry Cavill, are you the hottest man in the world right now?
Doesn't sound it.
However, showrunner Lauren Schmidt-Hissrich didn't even have a script ready at the time, so the audition didn't go as well as everyone had hoped. In fact, Lauren actually found Henry's efforts annoying as he was acting a little too keen, so she turned him down.
We had a great conversation, but I was honest with him. I said, we're not at a place to start casting yet, and even when we are, I'm gonna need to meet a lot of people before I know we found our Geralt.
But then it came time for the actual auditions and she just couldn't stop thinking of Henry's voice, which I'm sure you'll agree is perfect for Geralt of Rivia. The rest is history.
And I called him and we ended up meeting again in New York and he auditioned for the role. He actually got to read for the character, which was incredible. And those of us in the room that day, we knew that we had found our guy.
Henry was given his dream role, proving that perseverance, passion, and an unforgettable accent will take you places in life. Maybe it was his destiny to play Geralt.
Destiny helps people believe there's an order to this horse shit.
Landing the role was hard enough, but that was a piece of cake compared to all of the working out he had to do. Henry was already ripped from playing Superman by the time he joined the Witcher cast, but this role requires him to be a brute. So he hired trainer Dave Renzi to turn him into an Olympian, combining heavy strength work with fast cardio. The process paid off, as Henry now looks like a dude who swings a heavy sword and fights monsters for a living.
If I'm seen in your kingdom again, it'll be to kill a real monster, not lay claim to a crop or a new pup.
That being said, he also had to undergo some intense combat training for playing Geralt. The actor definitely wasn't some master swordsman when he was cast in the series, but he practiced constantly and honed his warrior skills. And now he's the type of guy you'd want on your side if you were heading into battle. Check him out in action. Henry was also adamant to find a steel sword that felt natural to him, so he wasn't shy about requesting some redesigns from the folks that created the weapons for the series.
I asked for a redesign of the hilt here, so it was at a down angle, which would give enough space for it to pass over the wrist when I turned my wrist.
Granted, The Witcher uses rubber swords for the action scenes, so it ain't like Cavill is actually hacking and slashing through everyone, but there's no denying that he is dedicated to his craft. Speaking of dedication, did you know that Henry refused to let a stand-in perform his stunts? No way, Jose. That's because Henry wanted the action sequences to feel authentic and immersive for the audience, and that meant throwing himself into danger just to entertain us.
It's really important that the character exists within the action as well, rather than just an acting scene and then you have an action scene which is completely separate, then you're back to the acting again.
Then again, Henry's also a daredevil who gets a thrill out of taking risks. The actor credits starring alongside Tom Cruise in Mission Impossible Fallout for inspiring him to go the extra mile. And The Witcher is a show that allows him to push his physicality to the limits. Of course, Henry's decision to do his own stunts hasn't always been what you'd call good for his well-being. While filming season 2, the action star suffered a serious hamstring injury that forced him out of action for a while. Basically, the actor was attached to a harness and pulled 20 feet into the air. Then, seemingly out of the blue, he found himself in a lot of pain and in need of medical attention. An ambulance was called and he was ordered to get some rest, which halted the entire production for a couple of months. However, Henry was actually quite grateful for the injury, as he'd been working non-stop and feeling the burnout. When it comes to my mental health, I focus on what I can control and work on that. And that gives me something to work towards rather than something to deal with or work through or manage my life through.
I suppose that's one way of getting some rest.
That stunt was certainly the example of a worst-case scenario moment, but the dedication that goes into each stunt and fight sequence shouldn't be underestimated. While speaking to CNN, Henry revealed that everyone needs to take serious precautions to prevent disasters from happening. You're not fighting in a gym, but on a slope with cobbles or it's raining, so you need to make sure everything is protected and that you build up the right muscle group: hips, knees, elbows, shoulders. Accidents happen sometimes, but not all of them are bad. Come to think of it, one of the hottest scenes in The Witcher's first season was the result of an unexpected mishap. And no, it has nothing to do with our guy soaking in the bathtub, if that's what you're looking for, you thirsty devil.
I will not suffer tonight sober just because you hid your sausage in the wrong royal pantry.
I'm talking about that steamy scene after Geralt fought the Selkimor. According to Henry, he was covered in fruit, yogurt, and other random things that looked like monster intestines. The concoction seemingly wasn't made for warm conditions, though. After he'd finished shooting the sequence, Henry went back to his tent to relax and unwind. Then smoke started appearing from his body as the liquid on his costume began heating up and melting into his body. Most of us would freak out in that situation. Not Henry, though. Heck, he actually demanded to do the scene again as he knew it would make for a cool visual. It's barely even noticeable at first glance in the completed scene, but if you look closely, you'll see steam rising from Geralt's right shoulder. While we're on the subject of cool visuals, let's talk about the White Wolf's groovy hairstyle. You might be shocked to find out that Henry is actually wearing a wig, so credit must be given to the hair and makeup department for making his swanky-doo look so realistic. However, finding the right wig was no easy feat. Henry described the process of creating Geralt's hair as an evolution that required multiple wigs, and that meant the show's hairdresser, Jackie Rathore, had to work overtime.
We were working long hours anyway, and then they went home and they took that wig with them. I'm sure she has various names
for the wigs.
So far, we've talked about annoying auditions, intense sword training, dangerous stunts, and gruesome injuries. But none of those compare to the pressures of living up to high fan expectations, am I right? Henry must have been stressing out over that stuff.
I didn't feel any pressure at all. I mean, and if I did, it's coming from myself. I'm one of these fans. I am one of them, 100%. Rabidly enthusiastic about doing the right thing for the show.
Bet you weren't expecting that answer. Still, I suppose playing Superman for the DCEU fan base and knocking it out of the park gave Henry the confidence to tackle any role. And having seen his turn as Geralt, most Witcher fans will agree that he's not had any trouble portraying their favorite shapeshifter. If you liked this video, be sure to check out our breakdown of what makes The Witcher such an awesome show. Thanks for staying awesome with us.